joining us. I'd like to get us started by sharing our history. The National Organization of Black Women in Law Enforcement Incorporated, also referred to as NOBLE, started in 1985 with Special Agent Gladys Jones from Washington, D.C., to build a networking system for women of color in the law enforcement fields on a local, state, and federal level. The Philadelphia chapter of NOBLE started in January of 1990. At NOBLE, we focus on the access to hiring, training, retention, and promotion in law enforcement and the roadblocks that prevent Black women from having access. Through our Adopt a School high school program, we remain connected with our communities and build relationships between law enforcement and our neighbors. This allows us to keep the conversation ongoing, and we are able to share our experiences with young ladies with interest in law enforcement. After all, we live in these communities that we protect and serve. We seek to empower women of color in law enforcement to build a voice in their community and their workplaces. We need women in law enforcement and associate members in order to accomplish this mission. To join us and for more information, please go to noblephila.com or email us at noblephila1990@yahoo.com. Good evening again, and thank you for joining us for another Let's Talk discussions with women of color in law enforcement. My name is Monica Robinson, and I will be your moderator this evening. Tonight, we have the pleasure of speaking with Trailblazer, retired Deputy Commissioner Charlotte Council. Please feel free to submit any questions you have for her in the chat. Good evening and welcome, retired Deputy Commissioner Charlotte. Thank you for your 32 years of service and commitment to Philadelphia. Throughout your 32 years, you served in various positions such as patrol officer, investigator, patrol sergeant, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and Philadelphia's first African-American female deputy commissioner. Congratulations, you are Black history. Please tell us, why did you want to work in law enforcement? And did you ever imagine yourself making history in your field?
Good evening. First of all, the answer is no. I had no idea that I would be pursuing a career in law enforcement. My background is in education, and at the time I was a long-term substitute teacher with the Philadelphia School District. At that particular time, I'm going back to 1981, there was abundance of teachers and they weren't hiring, and I needed a job. And ironically, my father, of all people, said to me, well, they're giving the police test, why don't you take it? And I said, well, I don't know if I want to be a police officer, but I explored it anyway. I said, let me see where this goes, because my heart was in teaching at the time. So I said, maybe I can come back to teaching at another time. So I took the test, passed all the requirements, entered the academy, and we had a big class of about 150 people.
Oh, wow.
Quite a few women in the police, in my police academy class. But something changed while I was in the academy, because I began to network with other individuals that were in my class. I learned a lot more about law enforcement, because you have the impression that law enforcement is patrolling the car and arresting people and people shooting at you. And it's far from the truth. So I learned about the nuances of policing, about arrest techniques, about firing weapons, about also physical training, and just learning about the different aspects of law enforcement, which totally was different from what I thought of the impression of watching TV. So I proceeded through the academy, and of course, you're a little nervous when you actually leave the academy because you don't know what to expect. But fortunately for me, I went to a police district, and at that time, we had officers that had, I will say, a lot of time on the job and a lot of experience. So they took me under their wing. So I was the only female in the squad. So the men had to rely on me, and I had to rely on them. And I didn't have it as hard as some of the earlier trailblazing police officers. So I actually, with the Black male officers, fine. But then I had some challenges with other officers where they felt as though I was taking the male's job because they found out what my background, my educational background was, and wanted to know why I took the job. But I didn't let that stop me. But after working a while in patrol, one of my supervisors, who was one of my Black male mentors, because that's what we had at that time, said, you know, you need to move on. There's so much in the police department. As a matter of fact, there's 76 different units in the police department: investigations, forensic science, computers. There's so many other areas, teaching. And I said, well, that's a part of my background. So I started off, applied for juvenile aid division to become a juvenile investigator. And from there, I started taking encouragement from my mentors, once again, encouraged me to take the promotional exams. So I took the sergeants, corporals, and sergeants test. I took the sergeants because that was a little higher. And if I had become a corporal, which was inside supervisor, then I would have to take the sergeant's test again. And I said, well, this is not bad. I was assigned to a patrol district, and the patrol district I was assigned to was in a, sort of a high crime area, and I was on a midnight shift. And actually, I liked it. I was able to interact with the community, and I was actually making arrests also.
Wonderful.
So then I got a phone call saying, we want you to interview for a position in the training bureau to become an in-service instructor. And I said, I'm having too much fun out here. I don't want to do that. So a couple weeks later, I got the phone call again. We want you to come down and interview for a position. They were looking for Black instructors that had a degree at that particular time, and I fit the mold. So I said, okay. Somebody told me, they're not asking you, they're telling you that you're coming down here. So I actually went down there and spent 9 years in the training bureau as a sergeant and lieutenant. So then I took the captain's test, passed that, worked in patrol a little bit, and then I ended up in employees assistance program. And a story I was relating earlier was, I said, well, 22 years in the department, I said, maybe it's time for me to change. I'm going to maybe face myself and start a different career. Well, the very next day, Commissioner Sylvester Johnson called me and said, you're being promoted to the rank of deputy commissioner. And which his recommendation to the mayor, and I was appointed to that position as the first African-American female deputy commissioner. And I mean, did I ever think I would be in that position? Absolutely not.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations on obtaining that position. I know you mentioned a lot of different departments that you worked in. I just want to revisit some of those. I know you worked in the Juvenile Aid Division, as you mentioned, the Advanced Training Unit as well, Internal Affairs Bureau, the Police Academy, the Police Recruitment, Firearms Training, and the Police Detention Unit, again, just to name a few. So throughout your career, can you tell us how you created opportunities for other women of color to achieve the success that you have?
Well, one of the things I've thought about was giving back. And even before I became a deputy commissioner, before I even became a captain, through the Guardian Civic League, I would go down and teach promotional study groups and classes. Every Saturday I was down there testing them and preparing them to move forward, move up the ranks of the police department. So that was male and females, but they were all people of color. So that was fascinating. So I did that for a while. But when I was able to get in a position, I was able to pull people in the units that I worked at. When I became a deputy, one of the internal affairs, and one of the major positions I needed to fill was a position within one of our special units within the internal affairs. It was a special investigation. And for those of you who don't know, internal affairs does investigate misconduct from police officers. So I was able to reach out to a Black female captain and put her in that position. And the reason why I put her in that position, because I knew she was going to treat everyone fairly and conduct investigations as they were supposed to, because there was actually an individual in that position that wasn't doing that. And of course, it caused a lot of uproar, but I didn't care. And she did an excellent job. And they got used to it. So, other things, just mentoring and lending the ear to individual, giving advice to other women of color, lending the ear to them, mentoring them. So it was just well, and as a matter of fact, we talked about it earlier. I had to laugh because even though within my office that we started off with mostly people of color in my office, but the last 4 years that I was there, we had an all female uh, African American office. So everybody in my office were female and were African American. So that was quite, I'll say, a treat.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, I know you also mentioned briefly you encountered some challenges. Can you talk about some of those challenges and how you overcame them?
Well, the challenges actually started when I was a police officer. And because women were relatively new to the police department, they didn't think women could do the job. But what they found out, women can do the job just as well and even better in certain situations, and had to prove, myself in that situation. So I stuck to my guns, did my job, moved forward, and they saw that I was going to quit because actually they thought women weren't strong enough to be in that job. However, you have to persevere. And I did persevere, and I was going to let them stop me from pursuing my career in law enforcement. So that was a challenging as I started the police department. But as, of course, as you go up the ranks and people look at women of color, they don't think that you know what you're doing or what you're talking about. But it's further from the truth. You have to show them. Then you have to show them you know what you're doing, and not let them deter you from what you're trying to accomplish. So it's interesting that, each step as you go higher in rank, things will get a little bit more challenging because then the competition sets in. And it's like people are trying to move you out of position, but you have to stick to your guns. Mm-hmm. And I didn't budge. I stuck to my guns. I stayed on my track. I set goals. And I said, well, once I attain this one goal, I'm going to move to another goal, because actually I planned on, I said, well, if I attain the rank of lieutenant, I'm going to be satisfied and I'll retire as a lieutenant. Mm-hmm. But I reached the rank of lieutenant and I said, there's more to it. So I moved to the rank of captain. So every time you have a goal, you reach out and set another goal. Now, some individuals, and I'm not saying everybody should actually go up the rank, but some people are very happy in other positions. But for me, I decided that I was going to go as far as I can. So set one goal and just move forward with another goal. As captain, boy, the competition got fierce. And when you know what you're doing, and you don't let anybody deter you, there's nothing they can do to you. Mm-hmm. But when I became a deputy commissioner, can you imagine the challenges that I had at that particular point? Because people are vying for that position, want to know, how did you get that position? You're not qualified for that position. Once again, you have to show them. And I wasn't going to say, well, I'm not qualified for the position. You can have the position. I don't think that was going to happen. So the challenges came from a lot from within the department, people not trying to back you, but you have to overcome those people. You have to surround yourself with people that you trust, and then you don't have any problems with those challenges. And that's what I did. I surrounded people who I trust, who had my back and I had their back. And, just set the example of policing and what you're going to do, what you're not going to do, because you're not going to run me out of the job. I'm here to stay. Any challenges, I had to learn how to play mind games with people. And people, because people expect you to be angry. And that was not that's not my personality. I had to find a different way to actually I don't want to say get back at you, but kind of knock down a challenge. And I have to tell you about one particular challenge, because it was funny. When I was in the training bureau and I was teaching a class, I probably had 50 or more officers in the class. And one gentleman decided that he was going to give me a hard time in class. So I said, well, I'm not going to holler and scream. Let me see how I can get back at him. So I asked him a question. He sat in his chair and he did a pretty good job. Start answering the question. I said, no, you will stand up and answer that question. So he stood up in front of everyone and he answered the question. And then he sat right back down. And it was about 2 minutes. He tried to hold it. He couldn't hold it. He got up and left the room and went to the bathroom. But what he did was come back to me after class and apologize. He said, I will never do that again. So, you have to find your way, your niches of how to deal with people. And I also credit me dealing with high schoolers and playing little psychological games, how to deal with people. So you don't have to get angry and nasty, but you can find other ways to kind of knock down those challenges. and just do what you have to do your job, and do it well. So someone can say, you don't know what you're doing.
Right. Well, thank you for that advice. That's very helpful. During your career, I know you did a lot, but can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you did to improve the relationship between the police department and the community?
Well, during my whole career was actually working on projects with the community. But when I became deputy commissioner, I was able to expand it because I had more control over what I could do. But some of the units that were community related were such programs as the Police Athletic League, Cops Helping Cops, because here you have police officers working with juveniles to keep them involved so they won't lead to a life of crime. So, but it wasn't all about athletics. It also talked about education. You had chess clubs, you had homework clubs, you had all kinds of programming besides athletics, field trips. So I had my officers, and actually under the Police Athletic League, I was able to expand to 26 different sites. It's always been a big program with a premier program with the police department. We always had community and sponsorship programs from outsiders. They even have a civilian board also. So that's one of the programs. Another program with the community, working again with youth from the ages of 14 to 20, was our Explorers program. And these are cadets that are looking for a career in law enforcement from the ages 14 to 20. And a lot of them go on to, might not be the Philadelphia Police Department, but other law enforcement agencies. But our program was so well run that like other police departments across the country were coming to Philadelphia. How are you running your program? Because it was pretty much running like a mini police academy. So that we were able to get individuals involved in that. And one of my favorite programs as a deputy was the creation of a program called Cheers. Mm-hmm. And people would make fun of the word Cheers because they automatically would say the program. But what I was looking at, individuals, we found out through a study that a lot of the crime was being committed by 18 to 24-year-olds, olders. And what we wanted to do is take a look, what can we do to prevent young people from living that lifestyle? So we looked, our focus were on individuals from the age of 8 to 17. What can we do to prevent them from entering the life of crime? So what we did was develop a program called Cheers, which stands for the Community Health Enrichment Empowerment Resource Services. So, and gave it a little catchy name because what we were doing, we were trying to enrich the health of these young people. We were trying to empower them, to lead their lives, and we were providing services. And the program was run by volunteers, law enforcement volunteers, police volunteers. And we weren't in uniform, so we wanted to show our young people that as police officers, we don't want to arrest you. We want to make sure you become a citizen, positive citizen in society. Mm-hmm. But originally, the track was to target these youth that lived in these high risk areas. Mm-hmm. And what we did was provide, first it was a 5-week program, and it was extended to 6 weeks. We provided them with workshops such as peer pressure, mediation. We had community groups come in and actually provide workshops. We also, life skills. We had sponsors like Target and TD Bank and, other community organizations. So we worked with the youth, and they would say, "You're a police officer?" Yes. And we even had politicians like Janie Blackwell, Councilwoman like Janie Blackwell. We had politicians actually, and the program went so well that actually, when I retired, another Nobley member took over, a police officer, Darlene Hayes, and actually took it even further. And we talked about teamwork. They participated in exercises. So it was actually targeting those high risks, but we found out that all young people can benefit. So anybody that wanted to sign up for the program from 6 different areas of the city were allowed to do that. So that was another program. Focusing more on the adult side of it, we work with organizations such as, let me see, Women Against Abuse. We worked with that organization. We worked at, I guess, I'm trying to remember the name of the organization. It's been 8 years, but we did work with other organizations and communities and provided them services or directed them to the proper areas that or units or districts that they should actually go to, refer them to get help. Crimes against the elderly. So we did a lot of networking with them.
Okay,
And
wonderful.
yeah, and one other program I'm going to mention because it was a little something that myself and I co-hosted along with another Nobly member, a program, radio program called Women in Law Enforcement, or Ladies, and well, let me take that back, Ladies in Law Enforcement. And it was our program. And what we did, we had a program set up where we were bringing guests and provide our audience with information that they can utilize with any type of problem that they may have. So those are some of the things that we worked with within the community.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I heard you mention Nobly members twice, so I actually want to ask now more questions about your involvement in this organization. So at what point in your career did you decide to join Nobly, and why did you decide to get involved?
Well, I guess teaching within the police department and the pre-promotional classes that I was teaching in groups. And I guess I ran across a group called Nobly. And that was about, that had to be about 18, 20 years or so ago, maybe even a little longer than that. And I liked what their mission was, helping women of color. I liked the networking. And it wasn't just within the Philadelphia Police Department, but it was across all of law enforcement, may it be city or local, state, or federal agencies. So all these members were within this group to actually reach out and pull each other up. So it was networking, it was mentoring, it was reaching out to the community. And I said, that's something definitely I would like to be involved in. I've been involved with it ever since. Even though I've been retired 8 years, I'm still involved with it.
Wonderful. Well, I know right now you're the chair of the Strategic Planning Committee for Nobly, and that you're also organizing a 2021 training conference. Can you tell us a little bit more about that upcoming conference?
Yes. Actually, we were supposed to hold it last year. However, because of COVID, we had to make some changes. Every year, Nobly holds a training conference. This year will be in Philadelphia. It's going to be from August 18th to the 20th of 2021 at the Embassy Suites Hotel down in the airport in Philadelphia. And what we're targeting 6 different classes or workshops that we're going to be providing to women of law enforcement and actually associates. So any associates that want to learn more about policing or law enforcement are welcome to actually attend the conference. And the workshops that we're focusing our attention on this year, we're trying to do, and I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to do this because of COVID at this point, we're going to do in-person and a virtual training, but I'm hoping that we can all do, I would love for everyone to do in person because we have some hands-on training this year. And one of the courses is the firearms training simulator, and which is brilliant because it allows the individual, and it's not even just for police officers, but allows individuals to strap up a weapon and scenarios on a large screen, and they have to make the determination, the decision when they should shoot an individual or not. And I actually did that when I was in charge of training. I brought a bunch of reporters up there and strapped them up on those machines because they talked about us making split-second decisions and wanted them to kind of get a feel. And they found out, now we understand. You have a second decision to make. So that is a workshop along with situational scenarios, putting people in situations and see how they would respond. And, maybe they can make clearer decisions while they're out there. So that's one of the courses. We're going to talk about health and wellness in law enforcement because we have to know about ourselves and how to keep ourselves healthy and mentally also. And that's extremely important because it's such a stressful profession. We're also going to do a workshop on generational leadership because there is a difference in the thinking of the old and the new. And that new always wants to, the millennial and that newer generation always wants to question why. And the older generation says, you don't question why. So we're going to have a panel discussion with the old and new and see how we can work together and understand each other's thinking. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to talk about investigating legal gun purchasing, because we hear all the time about these guns that are legally purchased, straw purchasing. So we're going to focus our attention on that particular topic. We're going to talk about social media in law enforcement and how we can use social media as a communication tool and spread information, and how not to use social media so we don't get in trouble. So that's another course that we're actually going to. So I'm looking forward to all those workshops. And one other final workshop is suicide prevention. Unfortunately, we have a number of law enforcement personnel that have decided to commit suicide. So we want to give them tips and ways to reach out and help them to make the decision not to kill themselves. So we're going to talk about suicide prevention also. So we're looking, I'm really happy with this workshop. Like I said, with Nobly, we do workshops every year, and we try to vary the workshops and topics because we wanted to appeal to all people and provide them with information that they can utilize when they go back to their agencies.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like an amazing conference. I can't wait to attend. If anyone wants more information on the conference, please feel free to email us at noblyphila1990@yahoo.com. I want to thank you for sharing all this amazing information. Because of you, we can. You have paved the way for so many to continue to do the work that you do, even so today. I would like to ask you one final question, and that is, what advice do you have for women of color who want to work in law enforcement?
If that's the profession, just explore it, research it, and go for it. At the time when I joined the department in 1981, we didn't have that many women. When I left the department, it was approximately 1/3 women. But women of color, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the challenge. We talked about how I went up the rank, but one thing I do want to mention is that even though I was a trailblazer, since I've retired, to pave the way, two other Black African American female deputy commissioners have held that position.
Wonderful.
And one actually even thanked me for paving the way. So you can do it. Don't be afraid of the challenge. There's a wealth of different units and different ways that you can contribute through law enforcement. It's not just through patrol. If that's what you want to do, that's fine also. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can expand and utilize any of your skills anywhere in the police department. So I'm saying go for it. I never thought that I would have stayed 32 years. I would have never thought that I would have done it, because I actually had an opportunity to go. I got offered a permanent teaching position, and I stayed because I had the best of both worlds, because even though I was teaching an advanced unit, I was able to substitute teacher on the side. So I had the best of both worlds. So what I'm saying is, don't let anybody stop you. Reach out to organizations such as Nobly, and because we're here to help you. And one of the things we were doing is until COVID really affected the graduation classes of our police academy, we were going up to the police academy and actually talking to the women as they were coming in. We're here for you. So Nobly's here, the National Organization of Black Women in Law Enforcement are here for you. Anytime you need information, mentoring, we're here for you to help you. And if you need information on how to become a law enforcement officer, and remember, we're not just city police officers. We're in the local and city agencies, we're in state, federal agencies, all types of agencies, prisons. So we're here. So we have a wealth of information. We have a wealth of experience throughout our organization. So feel free, if you have any questions, you want to speak to any of us, feel free to reach out to us, because we are here to help you. So if you're unsure, we might be able to encourage you to actually join us.
All right. Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for your knowledge. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your dedication to Nobly in the city of Philadelphia. Truly appreciate you taking the time to spend with us this evening. As you have heard, at the National Organization of Black Women in Law Enforcement, we seek to empower women of color in law enforcement to build their voice in the community and in their workplaces. We need women in law enforcement and associate members like you in order to accomplish this mission. Please join us. You can go to noblyphila.com or email us at noblyphila1990@yahoo.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Also, please connect with us on social media at noblyphila on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You will receive more information on our future Let's Talk discussions with women of color in law enforcement. Thank you again for joining us this evening.